I think that availability aspect, that universal availability aspect, and then that ability to look for those conflicts with scheduling is going to be wildly, wildly helpful. All right, so today's question comes from Melissa. Melissa says, looks like Calendly recently changed the process to copy availability from one event and apply it to another. Could you kindly update how to do that? Thanks. Okay, so for one, if you have not seen my Calendly tutorial video and you're brand new to Calendly, you're going to want to check that out, so I'll link that up here. But let's go ahead and jump into the specific question. And then there's also some new changes. Calendly had a massive rebrand, and there's some new things that I think you'll be interested in learning more about. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so the biggest difference that I see so far, a lot of the event and the details as it relates to the event are pretty much the same. Not much change there. In fact, I was a bit confused. I watched Calendly's YouTube video about the massive change that happened in earlier this year, like Q2 of this year, 2021, at the time I'm recording this. And they're talking about all these fancy bells and whistles and like fonts and blank canvas, and I don't see the changes, if I'm being honest. But one thing I will say about Calendly is there are aspects of what they do that are confusing. In fact, if you watch that tutorial video that I did, there's a million questions that popped up underneath. And I just think they're a newer company. They're based out of Atlanta. As far as I can tell, they've only been around for a few years. I think there's some learning still to be had as far as like really seamlessly communicating what it is they do and how it benefits you. And even I have used it for many years, and there's still confusion that I have, right? So let's dig into this. This is the first big difference that I see, right? Because the event types are pretty much the same. So there's an overarching availability tab now, right? And then within that, what you do is you set your default schedule, right? So you can select your time zone, and then basically this is a calendar view, or you can do the list view of when you're available, like what your work hours are. Now, here's the deal. You can select the event types, right? Active on. And it looks like, from what I can tell, when you apply these, basically what it does is these are going to be the parameters that fit within inside these allocated work schedules. So what I mean by that is this. If you had set an event type before that certain days, like you put every day on weekdays, you're available till 7 p.m. Let's just say that's what you set it up as. This would effectively looks like would override, because that would fall outside of your work hours. The other thing that I noted too, and I went to my settings, if you go to calendar connections, I believe is where I saw this. Yeah, so under configuration, what you'll see here is check for conflicts. So the good thing here is what it'll do is that not only are you setting that broad universal parameter of when your work hours actually are, so you're not like, oh no, someone booked at 6 a.m., right? And I'm on vacation. The problem before with what you had to do is if you went on vacation, you had to change every single event type. And that might be pretty burdensome to have to go through and change every single one of those. So the benefit, as far as what I can tell here, is what you'd be able to do is you'd be able to select, if I'm on vacation this week, this would apply broadly to all of your specific events. Now, the question as it relates to what Melissa was asking is, how do I duplicate that? It looks like you would still have to create your settings parameters, meaning your time parameters for that specific event, but you would have the opportunity with this availability to set general parameters as it relates to your actual work schedule. So that's kind of beneficial. If you want to duplicate, the best way that I've done it in the past is I go to the event that I want to change and I go to clone, right? So if I want to keep the same time frames or what have you and create a new event, I just go to clone and then I just change the name of that, right? So that's probably your easiest suggestion, but it does get a little sticky, which I think this availability tab is going to really help in that capacity. Other changes that I've noted include, it looks like there's some different things you can do with admin management, meaning you can do round robin scheduling. So you could do stuff that are based off of either recurring events with a team. So it looks like they're starting to incorporate teams more than they did in the past, as well as some different management tools. It looks like some of these features you have to upgrade for groups. So this is going to be something that really applies to people that are growing an organization, have a lot of different things going on. It also looked like, too, I noticed a difference with the workflow. So just to backtrack for those that missed that tutorial video, when you go to schedule an event type, one of the things that you'll note is you could go to workflows, right? So what that means effectively is when somebody books, there's a variety of different follow-ups that you can schedule and automate. I use this frequently because, in fact, this is anecdote, but you'll probably find it to be the same. My show rate and people missing meetings and things of that nature when I actually set these from the onset went down wildly, right? Like very rarely do we have somebody that just no shows or wasn't aware of the meeting, because we have these additional touch points available that are following up with our users or with our people that are scheduling events. So this is wildly beneficial. It looks like they've expanded that. So if you go to get started with workflows, what you'll see, they usually had a few, right? So these all were, I don't remember if you could do the survey before, but that would be a one that's really beneficial. But now what's really cool is when you hit show more, it looks like there's some additional things that you can add. So text reminder to host. So it looks like you actually can set a text reminder to yourself. Text booking confirmation to host, text cancellation notification to the host, text reminder to the invitee. I don't know how that's different than what we had before. I guess that's just placed in a different location. Text follow-up, finish up by texting your advice after an event, right? So what you could do, this question came up actually previously in one of the questions in the comments for that video, as far as how to set up recurring events. So it looks like you could either text or do an email follow-up that includes the link to rebook. So if you needed it to be a weekly recurring thing or a monthly recurring thing, you could automate that now, whereas you maybe would have been a little bit difficult to do that before. So some expanded abilities here with those workflows that looks like would be pretty nifty and pretty easy to set this up. It looks like you could pick what event it'll apply to, or this is kind of cool, this is different. You can actually apply it to all of your events. So if you wanted to do a text follow-up with all of the invitees to your events, you could do it right here. So you wouldn't have to go into the nuance of doing every single event. So you could do one universal follow-up for everybody. Now, obviously, you'd have different links or different, call to actions based off of those. So it may be that some of those emails have to be modified accordingly. But having that as an ability to do that overall, I think is a really powerful feature here. Okay, so something else that I noticed that's different now, it looks like there's the phone app, which I think was around before, but I've noticed it's gotten better. So that's really a positive thing here. Looks like they have a lot of different integrations and apps, which is always a good sign. Specifically when you get into businesses where there's specific requests or specific requirements that people have. So like Facebook pixeling would be a great opportunity to embed that. That's really, really cool. Zapier would be great. If you're collecting payments, like if you're doing a coaching business, connecting directly to PayPal and being able to offer that as far as payments are concerned, getting paid before, so you're not having to track people down for money. Another great opportunity here. So a lot of really cool things that you can do. One of the biggest benefits that I talked about in the previous video was when I schedule my podcast, it creates that Zoom event immediately and it gives them the Zoom link. So I don't have to email them or worry about making sure that they got it. It's right there in the event on their Google Calendar. So that's wildly beneficial. So this is a good sign. This shows growth, in my opinion, to see that they have this many different connections and abilities and so on and so forth. Okay, and then lastly, and this looks more robust as far as I see it, is their help center. So I was looking into some of these availability rules that they've added, but you've got all these different tabs as far as questions that you may have as it relates to some of the new features or things that have rolled out. I noticed this is, like I said, extremely robust. You've got a lot of different things that you could potentially look into here. I actually think I saw in the help center something like 68 pages worth of help that you could seek based off what you're looking for. So if you're looking for, I want to embed this on my website, right? I have a dog sitting business and I want people to be able to come in and just book that right there, right? Like book that service right there and collect the payment. And now you've got PayPal and that payment integration already. So that would be an awesome feature. Team scheduling. So you can figure out how to do multi-users or what that would look like. Customize event types, right? So there's there's 16 different articles here about how you could modify different aspects and different elements of that. So it looks like their help center is getting, like I said, not to keep repeating the same word, but it looks like it is getting more robust, which is great because now you've got specific people, whereas before it was very simplistic and it just didn't meet a lot of people's specifications. You couldn't connect it with a CRM. You couldn't collect a payment. You couldn't connect with certain apps and do certain things or embed a pixel or, all the various things, follow up with text and do all these various things. So it looks like it has grown quite a bit. And honestly, I haven't had time to dig into all of it, but these are the high level things that I have noted. And to answer your question specifically, I think that availability aspect, that universal availability aspect, and then that ability to look for those conflicts with scheduling is going to be wildly, wildly helpful. I found myself in those situations. As you get more than 1 or 2 event types, it gets a little sticky. And so the ability to be able to do this and then modify it in accordance with that, specifically, like I said, when you do travel, and be like, I'm not available, and it's going to apply to all my events. I think that's going to be really, really helpful for most people. So, Melissa, I hope that answers your question. For the rest of you, hope you got a lot of this. Make sure you guys drop me your questions. So if you have business questions or marketing questions or whatever the case may be, that's what we do here on Startup UTV is we answer business owners' questions about tools and business advice and marketing tips and stuff like that. So if you have a question yourself, you got 2 options. The first is you can drop that in the comments below. That's the easiest. Or you can find me on social media. You can send me a DM. I'm at Hey CMH is my tag on every platform. Hey, like hello, CMH. You can take advantage of that. And before you guys leave, don't forget to like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. The algorithm on YouTube has changed, and you probably have noticed you don't see videos from the people you subscribe to anymore unless you hit that bell for notifications. So make sure you take advantage of that. And that way you see more of these videos like this so you don't miss out and be like, oh yeah, I forgot I was subscribed to that channel. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.